Okay, my name is Caleb Merritt, and today I'm going to be bringing you an introduction to fractals. Now, what fractals are, they are geometrical figures that are formed by repeating a certain step or formula over and over again so that it gets to be very detailed, and so it ends up being a very detailed pattern with something called self-similarity. Now, what self-similarity is the property of fractals, or really anything else, for the whole piece to resemble smaller pieces, and the smaller pieces to resemble the whole. So you have this Sierpinski triangle here, and what I did, I took it and shrunk it down to where this smaller one is exactly the shape and size of this other little quadrant here. And then I took it and shrunk it down some more, and this little piece fits inside of this one right here, and even this smaller one right here. So it's self-similar in that the smaller pieces resemble the whole very clearly. Now, also related to fractals is the idea of theoretically infinite coastline or perimeter. Now, if you take this ruler, pretend it doesn't have any markings on it, and just use the ruler as the measurement, then you won't get very accurate measurement of the coastline. So if you just measure like this, then you're missing a whole bunch of gaps and everything. Well, if you take a smaller ruler, and again use just it as the measurement, not its markings or anything, you get a slightly more accurate measurement of the coastline. And the theory related to this is, if you get a smaller and smaller ruler every time, like this one that I can't even hold, if you get a smaller and smaller ruler every time, then the smaller your measurement gets, the smaller your measurement tool gets, the greater amount of errors and stuff that you can correct for. So theoretically, the coastline of anything is really infinite, which is why mathematicians have a problem with buying beachfront property. And fractals, as you can see by this Africa example, are also found in nature, which can be seen in this fern and this lovely Christmas tree here. See that the little leaves themselves kind of look like the whole part, and it just kind of goes off to infinity, even though ferns don't really go off into infinity. And how this Christmas tree here branches off and in sort of a fractal pattern. Well, because they resemble fractals, scientists can sort of predict how they will do this, like even how they will grow in the forest, the pattern of them being planted in the ground. They can almost predict entire ecosystems, which is really cool, personally, I think. Also, moderately related to nature is this thing called the Koch snowflake, and it is made, that's Koch with a K, and it's made by taking a triangle and removing the midsections of that triangle and making a point out of it using the same length that you took out. So you use the middle third of each side of the triangle, and you remove it, and you put two of them in its place and make them into a triangle, so that it makes what would have been an equilateral triangle, where this still here. And now if you keep doing that to all the sides, you eventually get something like this. And see, it's exponential, and it's fractal in that it just branches out. And it looks kind of like a snowflake, except in real life, no snowflake looks alike. Except these all look alike. And what you'll eventually get is something that looks like this. It's really fancy. You see how the smaller part right here resembles the larger part, which sort of resembles the larger part? That's self-similarity. Yay! The next thing I have for you is something called the dragon curve fractal. And it's made in a similar fashion, where you just repeat steps. What you do is you unfold the start and attach it at a 90-degree angle to the end. So you copy this and you flip it 90 degrees and you attach it to the end again. This is start and this is end. And if you eventually do that, and keep repeating and copying and pasting at the 90-degree angle, then you get something crazy like this. You might have seen this in a little book called Jurassic Park, maybe. It made it quite popular. I don't know, can you see that? Yeah. And it had, at the very beginning of each chapters, it had one of these to demonstrate the chaos that could be found in something as logical even as mathematics. And if you've ever read or even heard about Jurassic Park, you know how chaotic that got. So that's an example of fractals in popular culture. The most famous fractal known, besides those dragon crows in Jurassic Park, is the Mandelbrot set. Now, I can't tell you very much about how this is made because I don't want to go into a lot of higher mathematics. This is just supposed to be an introduction. But it's made by repeating a certain formula in the complex plane, and you just take a formula and make it rewrite itself over and over again using one input and getting an output and using that output as the next input. And that's how you make it. I think this black region is where it receives an answer of 0 so that it can't continue on again. If I had to bet, this is probably one axis and this is maybe another. But I do know that it looks neat. So there you go. There's that Mandelbrot set. And Mandelbrot actually was the man who made fractals a big thing in the scientific community because he figured them out and really discovered how they were popular in nature. In fact, his book, I'm going to put this back up here, he has a book called The Fractal Geometry of Nature, in which he explores how fractals are related to nature and how they occur in nature. And, you know, if you're really interested, go check that out. I'm sure it has I don't know how much higher order math is in that, but you can always go check it out and find out. Or ask somebody that's read it. Now, here we have something very, very simple. It's a very simple idea of a fractal. I know it looks very boring. What you do is you just take out the mid-segment of this line, like you did with the snowflake, and you just keep doing that. You keep removing the midsections. That's pretty much the simplest idea of a fractal that is out there, or the simplest thing that you can do at home, I know. And this is called a Cantor set, if you want to look that up, just in case you want to find out more about this lovely set of lines. Now, I'm going to go back to this snowflake, but only for the purpose of demonstrating the first fractal I showed you, the Sierpinski triangle. Now, for a Sierpinski triangle, what you do is, let's see this right here, you make lines to each of the midpoints. Instead of taking out the middle third, you make lines to each of the midpoints to make 3 separate triangles, like a right here. See how it makes 3 separate big triangles? And then from there, you take the upward facing triangles and do the very same thing, so that it leaves all the downward facing triangles blank, so that you don't get a whole mess of way too many triangles and nothing makes sense. So, there you have it. That was an introduction to fractals. Tell me about it. If you liked it, leave a comment. Like this video. Thank you very much.